Daniel Harris was a 28-year-old man with big ambitions. He grew up in a modest home with his parents, Robert and Linda. Robert was a mechanic, spending long hours at a local garage, and Linda worked as a school teacher. Their life was simple, never extravagant, but always filled with love. From a young age, Daniel admired entrepreneurs who built empires from nothing. He watched online videos of successful businessmen, read books about self-made millionaires, and imagined a life where money wasn't a constant worry. He wanted to break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck, not just for himself, but for his family. 3 years ago, Daniel took a leap of faith. He had saved some money and borrowed the rest to start an online business selling customized phone cases. At first, it seemed like the perfect idea. People were always looking for unique designs, and he believed his creativity would set him apart. For the first few months, sales were promising. His friends and family supported him, and through social media, he managed to attract a few loyal customers. Encouraged by the early success, he invested more money into advertising, hoping to scale up quickly. But reality hit him harder than he expected. Competition in the market was fierce. Bigger brands with better marketing budgets dominated the space. His ads weren't reaching enough people, and soon, orders slowed down. The inventory he had purchased remained unsold, and his savings quickly disappeared. By the second year, his business was on the verge of collapse. Daniel tried everything: discounts, giveaways, promotions. But nothing worked. The debt piled up, and his confidence crumbled. Eventually, he had no choice but to shut everything down. The failure left him broken. Daniel's once lively apartment became a place of silence. He avoided his friends because he couldn't bear the thought of answering their questions. The shame of failing weighed on him like a heavy stone. One evening, as he sat at the kitchen table staring at a pile of unpaid bills, his father walked in. Robert, covered in grease from a long day at the garage, noticed the defeated look on his son's face. "Rough day?" he asked. Daniel scoffed. "More like a rough year." Robert pulled out a chair and sat across from him. "You know," he said, wiping his hands on a rag, "I've been fixing cars for 35 years. And do you know how many times I've put an engine back together just to realize I messed up?" Daniel looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" Robert smiled. "The first time I made a mistake, I got so mad at myself that I wanted to quit. But my boss told me something I'll never forget. A mistake is only a lesson when you decide to learn from it. After that, every time I made an error, I figured out what went wrong and tried again." Those words struck Daniel deeply. He had spent the past year wallowing in failure, but he had never taken the time to truly learn from his mistakes. The turning point. That night, something changed. Instead of feeling sorry for himself, Daniel opened his laptop and reviewed everything he had done wrong. He analyzed his marketing strategy, his product selection, and his customer feedback. That's when he realized his biggest mistake. He had focused too much on the product and not enough on the customers. People didn't just buy phone cases. They bought something that represented their personality, memories, and emotions. That's when a new idea struck him. Instead of selling just phone cases, he would create a personalized gifting brand: custom notebooks, mugs, home decor, and accessories that carried emotional value. He envisioned products designed for special occasions, gifts for anniversaries, birthdays, and personal milestones. This time, he wouldn't rush. He spent weeks studying digital marketing, understanding customer behavior, and learning from successful brands. He started small, creating prototypes and testing designs with a few close friends, and then he launched again. The first few months were tough. There were days when sales barely covered expenses, but Daniel refused to give up. He listened to his customers, improving his designs based on their feedback. He shared the stories behind the gifts, making each product feel personal and meaningful. Little by little, things started changing. One day, he received an email from a customer named Emily, who had purchased a custom photo frame for her grandfather's birthday. She wrote, "Thank you for creating something so special. My grandfather loved the gift and it brought him to tears. It's not just a frame, it's a memory we'll cherish forever." That was the moment Daniel knew he was on the right path. His business began growing organically. People shared their experiences on social media, and word of mouth brought in more customers. Within a year, he had a steady stream of orders. By the second year, he was making more money than he ever had before. For the first time in his life, he felt successful. One evening, Daniel sat at the kitchen table again, but this time, it wasn't bills in front of him. It was a check large enough to pay off his debts. His father walked in, noticing the smile on his son's face. "What's that?" Robert asked, pointing at the check. Daniel grinned. "The engine's running perfectly now, Dad." Robert chuckled. "So, you fixed your mistake?" Daniel nodded. "Yeah, and I wouldn't have done it without learning from it." His father patted his shoulder. "That's my boy." As Daniel sat there, he realized something important. Middle-class dreams take longer to come true, but they are never impossible. The key wasn't avoiding mistakes, it was learning from them. That night, as he closed his laptop and looked around his small apartment, he felt something he hadn't in a long time. Pride. He had failed, he had learned, and now he had won. A mistake is only a lesson when you decide to learn from it. Daniel's failure didn't define him, his response to it did. Success wasn't about never falling, it was about getting up, learning, and trying again. Because in the end, success belongs to those who refuse to quit.